as well, because I'm sure our panelists are going to give us some really good some really good things to think about. Amazing.
Alrighty, I think we've got everyone now, so we will kick off. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. It's great to have you all here. Happy Wednesday, and we've got a great time in store for you this evening. So thank you very much for joining. This evening we have, of course, our Meet the Stemettes event with Roche. And you are joining us for a panel discussion and for some speed networking afterwards, hopefully. So for all you fantastic attendees, please make sure you get involved. We've got plenty of amazing role models for you to meet today. So like I said, there's plenty of ways for you to get involved this evening. So if you would like to ask a question during the session, you're welcome to leave a comment. I can see all your comments coming through, so it's lovely to see you all. Thank you for saying hi in the chat. Keep those coming in. And this is also just a note for you as well that we are recording this session and all of your comments will be saved. So please just be mindful about what you're putting in the chat. And if you have your full name displayed, you might want to go back and change that as well. So yeah, please be kind of respectful as you comment. And this is a safe space for everybody to learn and for everybody to network. So please be supportive of each other. And then, of course, I'm going to remind you of this at the end as well, but please make sure you're completing the feedback. This will be handed out to you at the end. This is super important to us because it means that we can keep delivering sessions just like this. And it only takes a few moments as well, so I promise you, but I'll remind you of that at the very end as well. So, like I said, today we're going to be joined by volunteers from Roche. We've got a fantastic panel for you. And today we're focusing on your STEMtastic career and exploring some of the many, many options that are out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce each panelist one at a time. I'm going to read a short bio about all of them. And then, of course, I'm going to introduce them and hand the mic over to them as well. Okay. So hopefully we've got everyone in. I'm just going to check we've got all our panelists in. I think we are good to go. So first of all, I will kick off with our lovely panelist, Amy. So Amy is a data manager and data engineer. And Amy's bio is, having been interested in astronomy from a very young age, Amy recently completed her bachelor's in physics from the University of Hertfordshire. Whilst Amy loved studying physics, she realised she was never going to be a physicist, but discovered a strong love for programming in one of her modules. Doing a year in industry at Roche as a part of her degree really solidified this passion, and Amy is now back as a full-time data manager, mainly doing our development and absolutely loving it. So Amy, it's fantastic to have you here. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that introduction. As I said in my bio, when I was a young kid, I never really knew what I wanted to do, but I knew I went to an planetarium, that's the word. I went to a planetarium as a very small child and decided I was fascinated by space and the stars and astrophysics. And it was the first time I kind of had an idea, and I was like, I want to be an astrophysicist. I then grew up a bit, and at school, everyone, when they asked us what we wanted to do, was like, I'm going to be a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer. And I suddenly realized my dream was possibly a bit unrealistic. So I spent most of my time at school panicking, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, wasn't really sure. I kind of enjoyed all my subjects equally. I had a crisis choosing my A-levels. I had no idea what I wanted to do. But my careers advisor at secondary school advised I took a science because they're very useful and I was good at them and I enjoyed them. So I chose physics, maths and philosophy as my A-levels. And whilst at A-level, I decided I really enjoyed physics as a science. I didn't think I would, but I did. And then I was applying for university. I knew I wanted to go to university. Again, didn't know what I wanted to study. Had a real crisis between physics and philosophy. I eventually lumped on physics because I thought it might be a bit more practical applications in the real world. I wasn't really sure though. That's just what people told me at the time. Went to uni, loved my degree, absolutely loved it, but decided I'm never going to be a scientist. I was very admirable of people who do that, but it's not for me. And so in my second year, I looked at the opportunity of doing a year out and going and working for a year. Most universities offer it, and I would highly recommend it if anyone does go to uni. And that's where I went to Roche. So I never programmed before university. I didn't know what programming was. I thought it was something that nerdy boys sat in a dark room and did. And then I started learning the language Python at uni and realized actually I enjoyed this possibly more than the science I was studying. So I was looking for year in industry opportunities in data science or programming. I ended up being lucky enough to get one at Roche. I spent a year there out of my study, earning money, learning work experience skills, soft skills as well. Really, really enjoyed it. Went back to uni, finished my degree, had to think about, do I want to go back to Roche? Do I want to change my mind? But decided in the end that I really enjoyed my year in industry. And as of last summer, I'm back full time and loving it to this day. So that's me.
Thank you for that introduction. And I've also got here that you are a keen hiker. Is that correct as well? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, no, I love trekking. I kind of got into it through my mum, embarrassingly. She's a lot more fit and active than I am. But she said, we're planning, I'm also a member, one of my other interesting facts is I'm a brownie leader. So I'm a keen member of Girl Guiding. And an opportunity came up to go trekking in Nepal in the Himalayas. So I went in 2017, I went to Annapurna Base Camp, one of the mountains in Nepal, and it was one of the best experiences ever. I was meant to do Everest Base Camp last year, but obviously COVID happened. So hopefully in the future, that'll happen.
I've got my fingers crossed for you, Amy, yes. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening, Amy. If you've got any questions at all, start thinking about them, pop them in the chat, and we're going to have plenty of time to chat to Amy later. But thank you very much. Fantastic. We'll move on to another panelist now. And next up, I'm going to bring on Suki. So Suki works as a global learning strategist and capability lead in the product development team at Roche. Her team enables scientists to develop their skills and capabilities in order to do what's next for the patients. Suki is the daughter of Indian immigrants and was the first in her family to gain a university education. She received her bachelor's in chemistry and management studies from the University of Leeds and recently commenced her master's in organisational psychology at City University of London. And Suki has worked in the pharmaceutical industry for over 20 years. So Suki, it's fantastic to have you here. Please tell us more about what you do.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I've got a little bit more experience than some of our panelists. So I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I started my career working in sort of the sales and marketing area, moved into market access. That's where we work out strategies for patients to get our medicines. And now I work in product development, which is about how do we get our scientists to work together with different skills and capabilities so that actually we can get these products to patients much faster. So that's what I do. I get to travel the world with my role if we're not in the middle of a pandemic, but you can see that I'm today working from home like most people in our company.
Thank you for that introduction. And I've got here as one of your fun facts that you were born an introvert, but you enjoy your public speaking as it pushes you outside your comfort zone. Is that correct?
Yeah, so as I said in my bio, I was the daughter of 2 Indian immigrants, so they couldn't really speak English. So even though I was quite a shy child, my parents would often use me as their translator. So it was a skill that I learned at a very early age of how to communicate with grown-ups and communicate different ideas, which I really enjoyed. And actually that stemmed a passion for me beyond the sciences. So I loved maths as a child. I love chemistry because I loved the sort of logical aspect of it, and it was an area that my parents could help me with. But I also loved English and the power that you could have in swaying somebody with your arguments, pros and against. So in my A levels, I did chemistry, maths, and English. And at degree level, I did an unusual degree in that I did chemistry and management studies. I really wanted to be able to demonstrate to employers that not only could I think like a scientist, but I also understood the world of business. Hence why I ended up in this pharmaceutical industry. And I absolutely love what I do because bringing medicines to patients is our philosophy at Roche. And we're always thinking about what do we need to do today in order to help patients tomorrow. So that really does involve bringing our sciences together, our people with the technical skills, our engineers, our mathematics individuals, and at the same time, how do we layer that with the soft skills? So how do we build on one another's knowledge to create something of value?
Amazing, really important points there, and it sounds like a big job to do there. Fantastic. So if you've got any questions for Suki at all, pop them in the chat. We're going to, like I said, plenty of time to get to know Suki and exactly what she does in her role. Thank you very much for joining, Suki. We're going to come back to you in a little bit, all right, on the panel. Thank you very much for joining. Next up, I'm going to introduce another panelist, and I'm going to introduce Cara. And Cara is a global scientific director. And Cara works as a global scientific director in the medical affairs team at Roche. She works with colleagues to develop the scientific and medical strategy for the ophthalmology drugs, which involves the eyes. She received her bachelor's in cell biology from the University of St. Andrews and her PhD in neuropharmacology from the University of Dundee. She joined the pharmaceutical industry in 2013 and has a big passion for learning, so she completed a part-time master's in health economics via the University of York to help her understand this. Cara, it's fantastic to have you. A lot of long words in your bio there. Do you want to explain a little bit more about what all of this means?
Sure thing. So hi everyone. Thanks so much, Lucy, for the introduction. So actually, very similar to our first panelist, Amy, I did not have a very obvious knowledge of what I was going to do and where I was going to end up. And to be honest, who knows where I'm going to end up in the future? I always ask people, what do they want to be when they grow up, even when they're an adult? What I did know in high school and secondary school is that I was incredibly curious about how things worked, how the world went together, whether it be you know, the basic elements of chemistry and physics to the psychology of how people think and interact. So I loved all of the social subjects, science, all of those. And in Scotland, we had the opportunity to select a number of standard grades and also higher. So that was great because I got to kind of scatter out what I kind of was interested in. And then at university, I actually was going to go to St Andrews to do theoretical physics. And the week before, I changed to biology. Really because of quite a maybe naive thought that I was never going to be Stephen Hawking. Quite limited in my understanding of the applicability of physics. So I thought I really love biology. I got really good grades, so let's go for that. And there I loved the science of kind of just how the body works and how complicated it is. And I kind of love the fact that we don't know everything yet. And I did a research project, which went really well. I got some positive data, and that really pulled me through into my PhD. And at my job at Roche, I really get to use a lot of what I learned in undergrad, but mostly keeping that curiosity in what else can we develop and really provide for patients. So I think at some point in our lives, we will either have already been a patient or unfortunately will be a patient with some sort of disease that needs a treatment. And so I get to work internally in the company with lots of fantastic colleagues. So I get to work with researchers and scientists. I got to work with statisticians and with the data teams. And really, we start to decide and understand kind of what drugs we'd like to develop for which diseases, what kind of clinical studies and trials we'll need to do, and then how we then present and publish our data at the end of it. And then the other great thing that I love with my job is it's very externally facing. So we get to engage with patients through patient partnerships and organizations. We get to engage with external researchers and also healthcare professionals. So my job is a real mix, all working together with a common goal of trying to discover new medicines.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Cara. It sounds fantastic. And as a fun fact from you, I've got that you love traveling, and on one trip you were involved in an emergency landing over the Arctic Circle. Please tell us more. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're here today. What happened?
Yeah, so I didn't have a plan to go to the Arctic Circle, but at least I can now say that I did. Yeah, unfortunately, smoke filled the cockpit. So actually, in the cabin, we weren't aware of anything going on until the pilot said, "We're landing in a Iqaluit." We didn't know what he said. We didn't know where on earth that was. All we knew is we thought we were still kind of over Greenland, because we're heading to Canada. And yeah, within a couple of minutes, we were on the ground, and they were trying to figure out what to do with us because they needed to send another plane from London. But it was interesting. We spent the night in an army barracks with the Red Cross kind of giving us food. And it was really fun in a way. So everyone was safe, everyone was fine, the plane was fine. But we got to meet all of these incredible people, both from the plane and also from this really remote village in Canada. So yeah, scary initially, but actually a really cool experience.
I like that you turned the negative into the positive there, and it all worked out okay in the end.
Yep.
An experience you weren't expecting, but that's fantastic. Amazing. Well, if you've got any questions for Cara at all, make a note of them, and we've got plenty of time for questions during the panel section. But Cara, it's fantastic to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got a couple more panelists to introduce you to as well. As if we haven't got enough here already, we've got more to come. Next up, we have Marcia. So say hi to Marcia. And Marcia's bio is, after graduating with a bachelor's in biotechnology, followed by a master's in forensic science, Marcia decided office-based science was more up her street than the lab. They eventually joined Roche about 15 years ago, and Marcia is currently a people and product leader in pharma development data sciences. During Marcia's time at Roche, they've worked mainly in data management, clinical operations, and in the biometrics team, supporting the delivery of studies in various therapeutic areas. As a product leader, Marcia has led a number of teams over the years towards improving processes, tools, technology, and team dynamics to optimize delivery. Marcia, it's fantastic to have you. Please tell us a little bit more about what all of this means.
I know it sounds quite a lot, doesn't it? You forget. And actually, what I do is work with people. and make sure that everyone is happy in what they're doing and can deliver the best that they can. So out of all of that, that should be your take home. No matter what you're doing, it's the opportunity to connect with others and make sure everybody is comfortable and can be their best selves all the time, and you can as well. So forget the data stuff.
Okay, so we've got
anything else about what I do? So working with data means I don't have to wear a lab coat, and I'm in an office and I can wear my nice clothes and people can see them, which I found in the lab that I spend a lot of time. You get dressed in the morning, you go in and you have to put on the same lab coat that you've had for a year because you're working with microbes and it can't leave the lab. It wasn't for me, but I still loved science. So I found this other arm of science that was around data. And actually studying forensic science was a way to get away from the bench, only to discover that in the UK, to actually get into forensic science, I would have to do about 3 years of bench work before I was out in the field or working with law firms. So I looked for another way of working in science, but with data, and that was in data management. Working on studies, I've done computer programming to build databases to collect data, and lots of years now working with people and teams to enable them to deliver, introduce new products into what we do. I'm in the same group as Amy, actually, and one of the great things about that group and Roche is the interns and placement students that come in, and they just inject freshness into what we're doing every year, and keeps it nice and interesting for all of us to keep delivering medicines and treatments for patients, which is the core calling, really, is to help people.
fantastic. Well, it sounds like a great team, and it's great that you've got Amy here as well, supporting from the same team. We love that. Fantastic. And I absolutely love this fun fact from you. So
oh my gosh, which one?
So we love food. We love to talk about food. And so I was very happy to see that you love cooking and you now specialize in quick mama meals. So tell us, what does that mean?
What is a quick mama meal? So before the kids, I would go all out. You know, you'd get your bell pepper and you'd make the couscous, you'd fill it up and you have 10 different spices in there. Now I specialize in quick mama meals, which is, can I make it in like 10 minutes and get it down the kids' throats in about the same time so we can all move on and have a great time? So quick mama meals is anything that can be done that fast, doesn't require too many ingredients, but is very, very tasty.
Amazing. What's your go-to quick mama meal?
Go-to quick mama meal's gotta be pasta with a bolognese sauce, a tuna sauce.
Sounds great.
You get the idea? Yeah.
Sounds lovely, making us all hungry before this panel is what we need. Amazing. Well, thank you very much for joining, Marcia. It's fab to get to know you. We're going to come back to you and some great questions, I'm sure, very, very soon. All right. Thanks, Marcia. Fabulous. So again, if you've got any questions, keep them coming in. Next up, we have Bright, and Bright is a global studies manager. Bright graduated in 2009 with a biomedical science degree with a specialty in human health from Brunel University. The idea of being in the lab after graduation didn't quite suit their soft skills. Therefore, Bright sought to pursue a career in the pharmaceutical industry. Starting off in a phase 1 unit about 12 years ago, Bright has since worked in a central lab environment, progressing to work in a few different pharma companies, predominantly in project management. Bright, it's fab to have you. Please tell us more about what you do.
Thanks, Lucy. I just had to remind myself just of the intro you gave, actually, of what I've done or what job I do. But essentially, I'm now a global studies manager at Roche. And that probably sounds a lot more fancy than what I do. The job really entails being a project manager within operations. So responsible for the day-to-day running of a clinical trial, which I'm sure you probably might hear a lot more about, and I'll try and save you from the details in this segment. But similarly to, I think, a lot of the people that have come on so far, I never fit a box of what I should do when whilst I was growing up. So just as encouragement to anybody on the call where you're not too sure about what you want to do, it's okay. because I think one of the speakers said, even as you're an adult, you will continue to evolve. But one of the things which I feel I've always been good at, or more so what the focus has been outside of sort of my academics, is my ability to prioritize, to organize, as well as my skills to just get on with people. So if you can get on with people and you like to coordinate, you like to plan, you can stick to timelines and deadlines and that kind of thing, maybe you might want to consider a career perhaps in operations or project management. So I studied in college biology, chemistry and business. Although I enjoyed science, I always knew that I wanted to see the business side of things. And I think that's where I found an interest working, of figuring out that there was something called the pharmaceutical industry. So I think as I went to university, I very quickly said, well, I like to speak with people all day long. So I don't think working in a lab particularly is going to work for me. So that all of a sudden ruled things out very quickly in terms of me working in the lab. When I graduated, I worked for a very small clinical trial phase unit in London. That wasn't anything particularly to do with operations per se, but I realized that I still had a pressing need to be in a job where it involved lots of organizing, lots of planning, meeting and talking with different people. So I decided to do a bit more research, and I found that there were particular roles such as a study manager or a junior study manager at the time, which really seems quite attractive to myself. So I was fortunate enough to have some opportunities with hard work to get my foot in the door, to start off doing project management within different pharmaceutical companies. And yeah, now I'm here at Roche. Again, every company calls it very different, but at Roche, they call it a global studies manager. And again, just to reiterate, it's really just managing the day-to-day operations of the study. So planning, meetings, people, deadlines, and yeah.
Thank you for that introduction, Bright. That's great to know. I've got here as one of your fun facts that you used to compete doing athletics. Is that right? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, I'm probably not as quick as I was, or probably don't get out there to run as near enough as I did. But I competed nationally a little bit, particularly when I was in university, actually, where I'd done indoor 60-meter sprints, heats, and also 100 meters as well. And it was something that I loved a lot. I think there's quite a natural ability and natural talent. So it was quite easy for me to sort of take off and be competitive and win races. So yeah, but now unfortunately, I don't think I could probably compete with most out there. But you know, I think that's one of the things when you get bogged down with work.
Absolutely, get back out there. You never know. Bring it back. Fab. Thanks so much for joining us, Bright. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. We're going to have plenty of time to get to know our panelists in a bit. Thank you very much. And then our final panelist, our last but by no means least, we have Rebecca. And Rebecca is a clinical neuroscientist with a background in IBM, KPMG, and has also worked at the NHS, where she helped build AI systems to improve health and care for all. Rebecca is thrilled to be part of Roche as their UK digital and data science innovation lead, working with real-world data towards personalised healthcare within oncology, ophthalmology, neurology, and rare diseases. Rebecca has also been voted one of the most influential women in the UK tech scene between 2019 and 2021. That's quite a cool title. Rebecca, please tell us more.
Well, can you hear me all right?
We can.
Wonderful. So despite that really kind introduction, it took me about 40 minutes to get onto this call because I failed at all the technology in front of me. So I'm on my mobile phone, and I think this is a wonderful example of where titles don't mean anything. So really good to be here and really looking forward to the rest of today.
Fantastic. And do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do at Roche and what's your day-to-day like?
Yeah, sure. So I've been at Roche now only about 13 weeks. Most people, when they're at Roche, talk about the decades they've worked at Roche. So I'm definitely a newbie and learning a lot. And I think one of the themes you've heard across some of the speakers today is actually that kind of continuous learning and being empowered to do that. So what do I do? Why am I here? What do I do at Roche? So essentially, what we are looking to do at Roche is to partner with the NHS, to partner with the system, to be able to leverage all the great technologies that you have probably on your mobile phone, like artificial intelligence, your ability to search Google really quickly, maybe to find the latest cool cat video or your latest TikTok. How do we bring all these kind of technologies that we're so used to in our everyday lives, crucially into our healthcare, and how we enable people? So technology is in no way the answer, but enable people work in our NHS, work in our social care system. How do we give them tools so that they can do their job really well? So that's essentially what I do, and what the team in which I'm privileged to be part of helps build across the system.
I can only hear for 30.
And obviously I do watch cat videos, right? To say that I don't would be totally wrong. But I am still in my probation period, and I do know that this is being sent across Facebook, so hopefully my boss isn't watching.
You're doing proud tonight. Don't worry, Becca. I've got this.
Okay, good.
And I've got here that you also love to cycle and kayak in your free time as well. Where do you like to go when you're cycling and kayaking?
So that's a really good question, because when I say cycling, I mean indoor cycling. So I literally go nowhere, but it's like the treadmill. You put in a lot of effort, you get off. I did that thing where I was like, right, I'm now 36 and I really need to get my healthcare. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so it was really important for me to be able to control all the external kind of things that could impact my diabetes, like traffic. I can't really predict that despite being a data scientist, or the weather. So I wanted to have a really controlled environment in which I could exercise safely. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll be that person that buys an indoor bike, and I did it. And it's quite an investment, I'm not going to lie, but I'm absolutely hooked. I've literally become that person that just talks about their Peloton all the time, like now. But before I got indoor cycling and got crazy on leaderboards and that kind of thing, I basically love kayaking. So we're very fortunate to live in southeast Kent, and we have lots of kind of waterways around us. And yeah, I find it a really meditative way just to be in nature and just turn off from the world, really, and just focus on the little things that often work. Sometimes you just don't have time to focus on. So yeah, so kayaking, I go kind of around the southeast, but in a few weeks we're going kayaking around Norfolk. So that'll be awesome.
Very nice. It's a great way to switch off, and especially working from home, we wanted to find our ways to switch off. So that's very important, and I'm glad you found your thing. Thank you very much for joining us, Rebecca. It's great to have you here. And that is all of our panelists. So it's now over to all of you. It's time for the Q&A. So I can see the chat here. So please make sure you are popping some questions in the chat. If you want to ask your question to a specific person, then please do pop their name in there as well. It's just a quick reminder as well that this is a safe space. So there's no such thing as a silly question, no such thing as a wrong question. This is your opportunity to ask our amazing panelists anything you want about their careers or how they got to where they are today. And yeah, I'll be checking in from time to time to see your lovely questions. So thank you very much. And I can see them coming in. Thank you very much, Janelle. That's fantastic. So can we get our panelists up on the screen? Fantastic. Here we go. Here they all are. Welcome, welcome back. So you can be reminded of all of their names as well. Fabulous. It's great to have you all here. I can see all your questions coming in. That's fantastic. So my first question for all of you is, what is your favourite part of your role? Obviously, you all do quite varied things here at Roche. So what do you enjoy most about what you do? Suki, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, so I'm in a privileged position in that I enable different groups. So I could be working with Bright and Marsha and Cara on one project, and I could be working with Rebecca on another project. So for me, what I love about my role is it's really flexible. It's varies from day to day. I get to meet these amazing, talented people and be part of that. So I'm not working. I think there's a theme that emerged. I'm not working in a lab. I tried to do that in my undergraduate piece. I was a bit like Bright. I was like, I love people. I love talking to them. How can I bring out their talents and their skills and, go and conquer the world? So I get a sense of that. And it's not me working in the lab, but all these people have been doing their part in the process. And we get to hear about the amazing stories that the patients experience, whether it's through technology and a health app, or whether it's through a medicine or a diagnostic test that we've evolved. So I feel like the work that I do brings value and it brings meaning to me and it makes me happy. And I get to, interact with fantastic people. So I don't really have a bad day at work ever. But there's more good and pluses to my role than there are negatives. So that's what I would say. That's the bit I love.
That's a lovely answer. It's great that you get so much out of your job role as well. We love that. Cara, same question to you. What's your favourite part of what you do?
So I have to say, I could literally copy and paste Suki's response. Like, I resonate so much with everything she has said. I just love that every day for me can be different. It can be what I make of it. So I get to work with different colleagues, both within the company and externally. I can pose questions that I want to try and find the answer to. So whereas before in my PhD, it would be me actually in the lab, like doing the experiments and trying to come up with the answer. It's a little bit different now. I probably myself won't be doing it, but I'll leverage folks like Bright to say, actually, we have this really key question and we need to do a clinical trial about it. So how can we do it? How can we run that trial? Which sites, which investigators do we want to get involved? Or maybe I want to go to Rebecca and say, Rebecca, we have this amazing data set, but actually, can we design an algorithm to start predicting some things about it? And so I just find that fascinating. I can come up with these questions, that I'm interested in answering. I myself can't answer them, but I have all of these wonderful colleagues in the company and, in research departments and hospitals all around the world that can help me answer them. So that's the bit I really enjoy.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. We love that answer. Thanks, Cara. And Marcia, what's your favourite part of what you do?
So at entry level, I would say I'll do that first because it's all technical and the people part is standard. And Amy, I'm not going to cross into your world. Don't worry. This is me 10, 15 years ago. Creating data collection instruments. Now that sounds really technical, but interpreting what someone has put down, a Cara might have put down as requirements for a study, and us interpreting that into how we can collect the right information to answer the question that's been posed in her protocol. It's technical, but it requires great communication, interpretation to do that and make it into something we're all familiar with, right? When you're on your phone and you're inputting data, put your name, your address, to create those instruments. That actually used to get me quite excited to translate a whole lot of blurb and chapters into something really neat that just collects the right data. And then when you've got that data, I used to really love the transformation of that data into something meaningful. So I can collect all your names and then you can start creating different things about that piece of data and transforming it into something else for people to use. So if you collect names and you put Lucy, for example, you put your whole name in one box and someone puts their first name in one box and the second name in that box, I can say, actually, I want them all to look like they were in one box, and I can transform that data. So it's a way of playing around, and it can be exciting to see what you can come up with to meet people's needs. What did you actually mean? And then you can report that data out. Lovely graphs, charts, connecting different bits of data together. And there are people who do that for a living behind the scenes. So I just want to flag that these are all career options to work with data in that way. As I matured in my career, of course, my role is more about enabling others to produce their best work. So I absolutely love leadership. I love teaching people that they are leaders. They lead themselves. They lead others. Don't look to anybody else to tell you what to do. You know what to do. They can help you get there. But I love that whole side of my role now, is enabling others, enabling innovation, saying just do it. Go and do it. Go and chat to whoever you need to, and let's see what you come up with. You get the most amazing things coming out. So coaching and being coached, that's another part. Coaching is when, so you think you can't do something and somebody helps you talk through all the steps and the processes that eventually find you in a place where you can do that thing. It's an amazing skill to acquire, and it's an amazing thing to have done for you, because it unlocks all this potential that you never knew you had. And when you get to that bit, it's such a buzz. And of course, connecting people.
Amazing. There's a lot going on there, and I love that there's so much you love about your role as well, and working at Roche. We love to hear that.
I love that we can work from home a lot as well, by the way.
Amazing. That's also true. Maybe we'll go back into the office one day. Maybe we'll see. Fantastic. Thank you for those answers. There was a question here from Janelle for Amy, which is, why didn't you decide to do a master's? How come you decided to go straight into Roche instead?
That's a very good question. Basically, I was a little bit sick of studying. I'm not going to lie. I went to university. I loved studying the subject. I hated the assessment part of it, to be honest. I still like physics now. I still read about physics. I still think it's a fascinating subject. But I decided the kind of structure of studying wasn't really for me. I think also, by the second year, I was still enjoying it, but I was going, I don't think a master's is for me. And then I did my year in industry and went, a year and no more studying. This is what I want to do. Even to the extent that my final year, I was just counting down the days until I was finished with university and I could start working again. I have a lot of friends, particularly in physics. It is very common to go on and do a master's. And so if you're into academia and you want to go into that side of things, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, I think for me, I enjoy the structure of working. I'm still learning. I'm still doing all the fun things I got out of university in terms of getting new information, learning new skills, but no one's going to set me an exam at the end of it. That's what I like.
We like that a lot. Some exams aren't for everyone. We'll throw that out there. Some people love them. Some people hate them. It's quite nice not having to be tested at the end of everything you learn. So that's always good. Thanks for that answer, Amy. And thanks for that question, Janelle. Looking through the chat, we've got so many coming in. So thank you very much, everyone. Keep them coming. So we've got Lola here has asked a question for Marcia. Even though you didn't pursue forensic science, what was it like to do a master's in it? So kind of the flip of what we just asked Amy. What was it like doing a master's?
Yeah, it was doing a master's in general for me felt like I was maturing in my education. I felt a lot more in control of my education than I did during my bachelor's degree. So that's the thing for me about doing the master's. It just felt more grown up and further away from school. Doing the forensic science course, I learned so many different dimensions of what could be careers. It's called forensic science, but it's where I was actually first introduced to broader programming. You learn about toxicology, you learn about ballistics. It just broadened my perspective on science and applied science. And we did law. I was in courtrooms. I observed an autopsy. I went to the Black Museum, everyone, in Scotland Yard. it's an exclusive place and you get to see, right? There's lots of nods, an amazing experience. So doing that further education wasn't just about lecture rooms and things. It just broadened my worldview as an adult coming out and thinking, what can I do? Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for answering that question. And yeah, you do what works for you. So that's fantastic. Lovely. We've got a question earlier from Alice, which was, why would you recommend your unis, or why did you decide that your uni course was for you? Rebecca, do you want to take this one first? Why did the course work for you?
Oh, what a fantastic question. Would I recommend it now? I'm not sure I would. And have, so yes, I've done the, undergraduate PhD thing. And I'm very much, and I think that's because I worked in the industry, I've worked at software houses, etc. I'm very much now of the position of actually that it's your aptitude to learn, not what you have learned, that matters. And so going to university isn't, in my book, important. It's more about, we're very fortunate if we have a laptop, if we have connection to the internet, let's say, and the ability to consume the internet, to really gain the skills via massive online learning courses, via things like this, via YouTube. So I think it's, and that's not me naysaying about traditional education, whatever that means, but rather that I think actually it doesn't set us up really very well for being workplace ready. Because when you enter the workplace, you're not, I've worked with so many people, I'm like, how many degrees do you have? And oh my gosh, not in a bad way, just kind of, I don't think it sets you up for working life. So I think there are lots and lots of other apprenticeships. Only this morning I was hearing about, I think it's in health and social care on the BBC News, about BTECs and T, I think they're called T apprenticeships and things like that, that set you up. So as much as I genuinely loved going to university, I had an absolute blast, I'm not sure that I would do it again, actually. One, because it gives you debt that, you don't call debt, but you're always paying off. But second of all, I don't think it set me up for life at all. And I think we have this kind of step function, the way we think about education. We need to change that and think about skills, and that never stops. Just because people have titles and we talk about, well, this person is a data innovation lead at Roche, and that doesn't mean I stop learning. I'm still on Coursera. I'm still always having to upskill myself. So I think, yeah, I wouldn't sweat university. I wouldn't do it again, I don't think, as much as I loved it. I hope that helps. And that's not, I haven't got lots of people at Manchester and UCL going, oh my God, what is she saying? I just want to be honest.
That's fair enough. That is actually a very good point. And uni isn't for everyone. And that's a really important thing to say. And there's loads of different routes into STEM. And that's fantastic. And that's why we love it. So that's fun. Thanks for that answer, Rebecca. That was awesome. Bright, same question to you. Would you recommend your course? Is it still worth it in your eyes, I guess?
I was hoping I didn't have to follow on from Rebecca. What I would say is this. I went to university in 2006. I started then, graduated in 2009. Now, being completely transparent and honest, in the same light as Rebecca, I would encourage university if you obviously have a passion for academics, and it's required, if you know what you want to do in your job, for your further education in terms of securing a job position. But I want to say this because with my nephews and nieces who are kind of maybe around a similar age and might be tuned in, there are so many other options to explore most industries than when I was in education coming up. And I think it's really important to have the knowledge of exploring everything that's on the table. When I was, I think it was a careers, I think it was just a careers thing that we had in college, and it was somebody for 30 seconds. There were no calls like this. There was nothing like apprenticeships that I can really remember. And it was just very much one way. If you kind of wanted to progress, you kind of had to go through the motions of furthering your education through university. But as Rebecca mentioned, just because you have a degree or you go to university, it may not necessarily prepare you for the world of working. And I think that's why it's really particularly important to listen and see what your soft skills are, the communication piece. And I think I probably learned that in parallel whilst I was in university in terms of social skills, and picked out what were my strengths versus what were my weaknesses. So in short, I think it's really going to be person dependent in terms of recommending whether you go to university or not. But one thing I would definitely say, we live in a world with vast opportunities where it doesn't necessarily mean where, okay, you have to be 21, 22 before you explore a particular job or industry. You could be 16, 17, 18 and have a similar exposure because we have the internet and different courses. So I think it's definitely person dependent. And now we're moving on with the times. So I think it's very important to explore what's on the table in today's sort of present.
That is so true. There is so much out there, so much for young people to explore. So yeah, make the most of it. Talk to people. Really good answer there. Thank you, Bright, for that one. And Suki, I'm going to come to you. What's your opinion on university courses?
Well, you know, for me, going to university was a way of excelling and social mobility for me. My parents taught me the only way out of poverty was to get a good education, to get a good job. So for me, it was I never doubted for a second that I wouldn't go to university, but I had no role models, right? So I went to university and I was like, gosh, this is hard. And this lab's a little bit smelly. And actually, I'm with Marsha. I was like, I don't really like wearing this lab coat every day. I wasn't quite getting my fashion vibes in the lab. However, what I would say is that some of the things that our panel have shared today really resonate with me. So, Amy, I had to leave university after I got my first degree because I didn't want to have this huge amount of student debt. And also I felt guilty. People my age and my family were working. So for me, it was a case of going to university was a real luxury. And I studied with people who were like, I'm going to go and do a PhD. I'm going to do a master's. And I was so envious because I was thinking, I would really love the opportunity to carry on studying, but I don't have that choice. And now, 20 years on, I'm in a privileged position where Roche has sponsored me through a master's degree. And I get to learn some theory and I get to apply it in the workplace. So there is a different route. It just took me a little bit longer to explore that. But I'm so envious of our participants today because you're growing up in an era where you can consume learning in a very different way to how it was available to me when I was your age. And so I'm envious, but equally, if you look at these wonderful greats that we've had in STEM, many of them didn't go on to do a degree. And like Rebecca said, we're surrounded by people who've got multiple degrees. It's actually how you take that theory and you apply it, and how are you bringing real value. And what I would say is that if you'd said to me many years ago, you're going to be doing a social science as a master's degree, I would have been a little bit snobby. If I'm really honest, I would have said, no, I do life sciences. Thank you very much. Social sciences, is that even a thing? But to Bright's point, when you start looking at the soft skills that people have to offer, and when I look at the work that I'm doing, my role is all about bringing people's skills and talents together so that we can perform at a local level, at a global level. And for me, how organizations work, how we bring out the best in our people, how we reward them, how we attract people like our Stemettes who are on the call today into places of work like Roche really matter, because the World Economic Research Forum suggests that every 5 years, our current skills decrease by 50%. So my skills are going to be outdated in 5 years' time. So how do I keep those skills? How do I retain them? How do I learn from the Stemettes on this call? So that's what I would say is that, as you can see, I'm really passionate about learning and development, but I'm really passionate about actually everybody has a purpose. How do you understand yourself so that you can bring out your true potential? So thank you, Lucy, for coming to me. I'm sure other panelists have other ideas as well.
That's a very strong answer there, I think, and you covered a lot of really important points. And you can continue to learn at any age. Learning never stops. And if you've got an opportunity to continue learning at any age, then you should take it. And I think that's a really great option, especially if your company is paying for it as well and helping you and sponsoring it as well. Why not? I mean, fantastic.
Can I just jump in and second that, Suki? This week was the first week of my master's in health data analytics, because I also needed to evolve what I do. I don't mind saying I'm 45 years old, and I was at uni with these young ones last week, wondering if I'm going to keep up with them. But here I am, and here Suki is. It's just phenomenal and these choices that Suki and I have made. We've got lived experiences now. It's all very specific why we're doing what we're doing and the how we've chosen to do it.
Absolutely. Never stop learning. And like you say, evolving. I think that's a really good way of putting it. Evolve as you go. Love it. Thank you very much for those answers. We're going to stay on a similar sort of topic here, because I've seen a question from Debs, which is around choosing any advice for choosing A levels or BTECs. Which again, quite a big decision to make. It's the first time you begin to properly narrow down your choices. Rebecca, I can't tell if this is an excited pose or a I'm not sure pose, but I'm going to come to you.
It was a thinking pose. I'll start my dancing later, but no, please don't be sorry. That was all good. The reason I was thinking is because I did 3 what was considered arts A level, and then I literally read a book. It's one of these like classic things where you read a book and you go, oh, neuroscience, no one told me about that. And then I'm halfway through my A levels, which was however many decades ago, and I started looking at the courses on UCAS, and all of a sudden I needed a science. I was like, no one told me that either. So in my gap year, I went and I didn't go and find myself. I'm still looking, but I did some extra A levels whilst I was working, because I couldn't access the courses that I want to. So that's why it kind of made me tickle a little bit. So I completely got my A levels wrong, given, but it's fine. We're recovered. I think it's a really tough choice. I've not done a BTEC, so I can't give you any kind of personal advice from that. I've always just not planned things, and that sounds really bad, doesn't it? But I just have a principle of do what you love, and the rest will work itself out. So if you do need to start narrowing down, as you do with A levels, because I remember doing GCSEs, I was like, I've got to do 12 of these, what? And then I've got to do 5 A levels. But if you do have to start narrowing down, which is tough, I honestly think my kind of needle of my compass in life is, find things that make you happy. If you're a hands-on learner, then do courses in that. Or, we spoke earlier about some people don't like to be highly assessed or exams. I loved exams because I was like, right, this is my time, right? I've done my revision, bring it. What have you got? But some people hated it. And actually, I hated lab work. I like looking down a microscope. I was like, dull. So, I mean, it entirely, what I would say is, do what you love and then craft it around you. So if you have to make that decision, which you do, I don't think there's a right or wrong. You know, I just think do the thing that suits you and that you love doing, and you think, you know what, I've got a great day ahead. And it won't always be like that, right? Life isn't like that. But yeah, just do what you love would be my. Yeah, so I don't know, other panelists probably have much more articulate and better advice for you. So I don't know who you want to rugby to now, Lucy, but that's my advice.
Amazing, but good advice there. It's a good takeaway quote. Do what you love, for sure. Very good advice. Cara, what about you? What's your advice for this?
Sure. I don't think I have any wisdom, but if I have any at all looking back, I chose my subjects because I liked them, I enjoyed them, I was passionate about them. And I think today still I would tell anyone you have to have an element of that. I don't think you can go in and dedicate yourself and work incredibly hard for any length of time if you don't get excited about something. I think it really helps. Um, I the advice that I give in general about, what should I choose at school? Should I go to university? I kind of say to people, try and figure out what do you want to get from life. And I don't mean like for the rest of your life, but just maybe in the nearer term. Do you want to have something that gives you a lot of flexibility to learn different things, to move around, to maybe jump across different industries? Do you want to travel? Do you actually need some stability? Do you want to start a family quite soon? Do you want to earn a lot of money? And that's okay if you do. That is fine to say that. If you do, that's cool. But you then have to look at, okay, what do I want out of life in the near term? And what kind of jobs and industries might allow me to flex to that? And so that's kind of what I did as well. I had my subjects, I was passionate about them, I enjoyed them, but I also spoke to my career advisor and said, listen, do I have a potential to get a job? Is there a lot in the market where I can get a job for that? I was fine. I come from a council house and a council estate, and my parents did not have a lot of money. I was very privileged to grow up in Scotland where university education was free. So I myself has never paid for education. My undergrad was free. Sorry, taxpayers, not free. I'm paying it now, I suppose. I received money to do my PhD, and my previous pharmaceutical company paid for my master's, like is happening with Suki here at Roche. So kind of I just went with what I loved, but also I needed the security that drove me in life. I needed to know that I was going to have a job that would give me some amount of money, not massive. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd say. Kind of try and figure out where you think you want to go in the next few years of life.
Great answer there. Thank you very much for that answer, Cara. And Amy, we'll come to you. We haven't heard from you in a little bit. What's your advice on this?
I mean, I had a crisis at every time I have to. I'm a rubbish decision maker. You ask anyone I know, I'm terrible at making decisions about anything, like even what's for dinner. So trying to choose A-levels was one of the most stressful times of my life. But particularly as well, I went to the careers advisor and their first question was, let's see your grades. And then they were like, okay, you're doing all right in all your subjects. And I wasn't exceptional, but I wasn't bad at anything. And then they were like, okay, what do you enjoy? And I was like, oh, everything kind of. And I think the careers advisor was pulling their hair out, to be honest. But I think everyone's kind of hit the nail on the head. In the end of the day, it's what you do enjoy. If like me, you enjoy everything, it's difficult. I think the way I eventually made my decision was the careers advisor said, okay, if you don't know what you want to do a little bit of everything and you can figure it out down the line. So she said, I'd recommend a science because sciences opens the doors, as others have said, like if you go to university, the one that they normally stipulate you have for science degrees is maths or a science. So I did that. I did a language at AS. I did Spanish. I was rubbish at Spanish, but again, people were like, it opens doors. So I did that. I wouldn't recommend a language if you're not very good at it. And then I did philosophy because I went around some, so where I'm from, we don't really have sixth forms. We had colleges. So we had to go around and visit them all and decide where to go. And I was stuck. I was really stuck. I was like, I've got science, I've got a language. What else do I do? And then I heard the people in philosophy talk, and I'd never heard of philosophy. I thought it was like RE at school. It's not. And I was just inside. My mum turned to me and she was like, this is the one. This is the one you should do because it's the only one all day that I actually showed a particular interest in and I talked about on the whole car ride home. And then I did my A-levels, and then I had to choose my next steps, and I had a crisis there again. I went around all the universities and looked at physics and philosophy because I just couldn't decide between the two. I'm glad I did physics. It's got me to where I got today, but I think I would be equally as happy if I'd done philosophy because I did love it. But then again, I know the question you said was A-levels or BTECs, and I have a few friends who went and did A-levels because we were kind of told A-levels is the next step. A-levels is how you get into university and jobs and stuff. And I know people who shouldn't have done A-levels. I had a friend did a year of A-levels and he struggled. It was the worst time. He really, really struggled. He couldn't focus. Academia just wasn't for him. He then transferred to a BTEC and he loved it. He excelled. He suddenly found something in life that he was good at because he'd always struggled at school. And I think it's important to know that, you know, there are other options. If academia is not for you and you're sat there going, oh my goodness, everyone's talking about A-levels and I can't even do my GCSEs, that's okay, because my friend has been working since he was 16 and he's now doing incredibly well for himself, probably better than me because I've only just started my career. So there are options. So that's important to know as well.
That is so true. There are plenty of options out there. And by talking to people, attending days like this, evenings like this, you're going to get to learn more about all the options that are out there. And that's fantastic. So yeah, great advice there. Thank you for sharing that, Amy. I'm going to come back to another point that we were talking about earlier. And I think Bright and Rebecca, you both mentioned this. And it's not necessarily about the route that you take. It's about the key skills that you can bring to the industry and some of the skills that you pick up along the way. So I wanted to ask a couple of you, what are the key skills that you think are important for either your industry or for your job role in particular? Bright, what do you think? You brought this up earlier. What key skills do you think are important for people interested in this industry?
I'm going to say one which is probably maybe not the conventional answer, but I'm going to say confidence. Confidence in a sense whereby you're not afraid to ask questions. You are not afraid to try new things. You are not afraid to speak with people. And I think sometimes when you're coming into industries, science, technology, engineering, and maths, like for example, this call, you can get quite scared and think, oh, everything is quite stiff. Everything is quite rigid. But honestly speaking, if you have and are able to build up your confidence, not even necessarily in just your subject and academics, but yourself as a person, you will realize very quickly when you get into the world of work, and circling back to what Rebecca said beautifully, is that you can have all the degrees and A's and wonderful grades, but if you lack simple key skills like confidence or an ability how to organize and manage your time, you'll realize that you'll get stuck very, very quickly. So just to encourage everybody who's probably on this call, great work, keep it up with the academics, but also take the time to look within yourself in terms of building up your confidence and being sound within yourself, because you'll have yourself to answer to as you move through and come up in your world of career and life generally.
Absolutely. Strong answer there. And it kind of relates back to, I think, what Rebecca was saying earlier with do what you love. So yeah, really important. And yeah, we are all about confidence here, confidence in yourself, confidence in exploring, confidence in going up to people and being able to ask them questions. Amazing answer. Thank you for that, Bright. That was fantastic. Other key skills, Suki, what do you think? What, in your opinion, are the key skills for your industry?
I think I love that answer that Bright just gave, because I think sometimes, I mean, I've been a career advisor, I've been a performance coach, working with different functions, and the things that sometimes get in the way, we tend to get in the way of ourselves, right? It's that lack of confidence or second guessing ourselves or thinking, I'm not going to be good enough, or, you know, this person's so much better than I am. And actually, you know, give it a go. what could possibly go wrong? Even if it's not for you, that's okay. That there's learning in that in itself. And what Amy said about the moment of crisis. Amy, I had a similar moment of crisis when I was choosing my degree, and I ended up doing this unusual combination of chemistry and management studies. And I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, well, normally you choose an art or you choose a science. That's an odd combination." And I went, "Well, yes, it might also get me the job that I'm looking for." So I chose to look at it a different way. And I remember being so confident in this particular weird combination of topics. But I'm so glad I did, because I've moved my love of sciences from life sciences to the social sciences. And I think you have to really think about who in your network can you go to and speak to. And I love the fact that we've got these Stemettes on the call listening to us, because actually, you can live from our experiences and you can learn from those experiences. But the options of actually going into a place of work, maybe if it's just a 2-week work experience period of just meeting people, getting a feel for it, you will soon know whether that place of work is somewhere where you can see yourself in the future or not. So I would say, reach out to people, ask them for their experiences. I love the fact that Amy's friend is doing really well using a BTech option. So think about your network, think about where you can go to, who you can speak to. And if you can't speak to somebody in person, I love Google. Do some search, do some Googling, go and listen to people's stories. What's worked for them? What are their life lessons? So that's my wisdom. My children hate me for going on like this, so I apologize. You got a feel for what my children get to sense. One other thing I would add to this is that my daughter just recently started secondary school, and the school offers a robotics and coding club. And she said to me, "Oh, I'm not even going to bother signing up for that. It's just going to be a bunch of blokes who do that." I said, "Well, actually, I think you would enjoy it. You love science. You love logical working. It's something you've not experienced. So unless you give it a go, how will you know?" And I can tell you, I went to pick her up a couple of weeks ago. She had a big smile on her face. And when I said, "How was it?" And she went, "Well, it was just me and 3 other girls and 40 boys." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. That can sometimes be the way." She said, "But I loved it because the girls' team won." And so I think sometimes I know we don't like listening to our parents and our carers, but we always have your best interest at heart. So just wanted to put a +1 for those parents who are sort of willing you on as well. So ask for advice. You don't have to take it, but it's worth listening to a different opinion.
That is so true. Really good advice to end on there. Get a range of opinions. Why not? If you can, it's great. And you might discover something new. You might not. And like Suki said, you don't have to take it, but it's always good to have that option there. Amazing answer. Thank you so much for that one, Suki. I'm going to slightly change the topic slightly and ask if anyone has gone through a career change. I guess kind of leading on what we were saying is, if you don't find a passion that works for you, you can always change careers at any time. Have any of you gone through a slight career change or changed roles at Roche at all? If you want to just come off mute, maybe. No? Rebecca, you've just joined. You're quite new to Roche. Where have you come from? What was your past? Was it a career change at all?
Yeah, I mean, I pivot all the time because I get bored really quickly. But also, I think that I don't think we live in a world anymore that you have this kind of linear, unless you go into things like a profession, right? And they're brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Like if you're a doctor, if you're a vet, if you're a lawyer, although there are very clear regulated stage gates to doing those things. But yeah, I started off doing a PhD. I did some postdocs. I then went and worked at what's called a think tank, did lots of thinking, a little bit of doing. I then went and worked at IBM because I thought, well, it would be cool to learn to code. It looks like a cool thing to do. And I think just on that, one of the things as a data scientist, I'm saying this, that people kind of go, right, well, I don't want to get into AI. So to Suki's point, she's talking to her daughter and saying, actually robotics could be quite cool. I think if you fundamentally ask the question, do you want to help people using technology? The end. That's the simplest question. And then if the answer is yes, then you have a whole world of amazing things out there. It could be in marketing, it could be in front-end web design. We're looking at YouTube at the moment. How do you think that's built? It's built because people code, but they bring you to YouTube in a particular way that is really engaging. So this whole dichotomy, or you either do science or you either do art, is wrong, because actually unless everybody loves their own form of art, and actually that is really what technologists do. They are artistic, they are creative, they have to engage with people and computers. It's not just sitting coding and boring and eating pizza all the time, although pizza is awesome. But just also to the previous point of some of the skills you need to build, I think what we're really bad at is going, it's okay and good to fail. What makes you really good at a job is failing fast. It's about identifying that you need to, I don't know if any of you have seen the Friends episode when they try and get the couch up the stairs, but where you have to pivot, and identifying those pivot moments early, irrespective of what you do, is crucial, and that's crucial for success. But we live in an education system where actually it's all about learning the right answer, not about learning how to identify failure and then change track. And actually a lot of jobs, whatever you do, whether it's science, whether it's whatever it is, that's crucial. That's a kind of one of those distilled skills that will really help you. So have I changed jobs? Yes, because not all people that wander are lost. A little Tolkien quote in there for you. I love a quote. And I actually think it makes you, having a diversity in your career and in what you do and the many hats that you wear, actually gives you such a beautiful perspective on life that you can take to your next role or your next job. So I have absolutely no regrets in the fact that I've done 400 different careers. But it's always with that purpose, right? Can I use what I have learned to help people? And if the answer is yes, I'll go do that job. Back to you, Lucy. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant. Sorry, I get a bit ranty when I get passionate.
No, we love that. That's very true. It's a very good moment. And yeah, it's all about those pivot moments. It's all about, adapting to what's in front of you and adapting to where you want to go. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca. So we've got about 5 minutes left of this panel. It's 5 to 6 already. So I'm going to begin to bring this to a close, and I'm going to ask each of our panelists for your favorite piece of advice or your best piece of advice you've been given, something along those lines. So hopefully you've got something ready. But right, I'm going to come to you first. What is your best piece of advice you'd like to pass on to the Stemettes that are watching?
Okay, let me think about the advice that I wish I had that I didn't get. What would it be, Vaz? Don't put so much pressure on yourself, and don't confine yourself into a box if it doesn't exist. Many a times, particularly with our subjects, people will make it seem that it's either this or it's that, or you just don't fit in. Don't be so worried if you feel like you don't fit in yet. You will find your groove. You will find your strengths. You will notice your weaknesses. But whatever you do, don't be disheartened, or don't try and do what everybody else has done, because you are unique in itself and you have something to bring to the table. Your mind works in a particular way for a reason. So don't try to change that regardless of what somebody may be swaying you to do. And that could be even a teacher or maybe even a loved one at times. Be really firm in what you believe and follow life's path where it may lead. You don't have to have all the decisions and answers now. I don't. And I'm still evolving. And I'm sure many people on the call are still evolving. So that's the advice that I give.
Amazing answer there. Yeah, always evolving. Love that. I think, yeah, take the advice. Amazing. Thank you very much, Bright, for all your answers. That was fantastic. Marcia, over to you. What piece of advice would you like to pass on to the Stemettes that are watching?
Bright kind of said it, but you are your own amazing. That's it. Know that wherever you land, whatever is happening around you, it's not measured against anybody else. It's measured against you, and just be sound in that. And then the piece of advice that I received when I was working on a project, and I finished the project, we delivered it. It was fantastic. We rolled it out across all of Roche. Then we had a merger, and I noticed this project coming up again. Why don't we do this from the new voices? And I sat next to somebody from one of the new companies. I said, we've done this before. And he said to me, did you future-proof it? And I've never forgotten that. So it's coming up again because we did do it before, but did we future-proof it? Did we account for this merger happening and new voices coming in? And I've kind of woven that into a lot of things I've done ever since. You can make something that's adaptable, but it still has the core essence of what you was trying to deliver all the time. So did you future-proof it?
Future-proof, future-proof, future-proof. Thank you, Marcia, for all your answers. That's fantastic. Rebecca, over to you.
I think the advice I would give, and I say this because I have innovation and that's what I'm meant to do, right? So often I'm working with a lot of people on this call trying to stretch boundaries of thinking and what we do as an organization to help patients. And that can be new ground. And that can feel quite uncomfortable. So I would say, and I wrote it down because I really thought about what you had said. I hadn't pre-crafted it, but my advice would be build your own door and walk through it. You know, you have all the scaffolding around you. As Bright said, you know, as Marcia said, you're unique, you're beautiful, exactly who you are. Don't compare yourself to others. But similarly, you have a wonderfully empowered scaffolding to help you. You have us on the call, you have people around you, but sometimes you have to build your own door and you have to walk it. And that would be my advice.
Amazing. Great advice there. Great takeaway. Build your door and walk. Love it. Thank you, Rebecca, for all your answers. It's been fantastic having you. Suki, I'm coming to you. Your favourite piece of advice you'd like to leave our Stemettes with?
Some of it I heard today with the panelists. So I loved Rebecca's do what you love. And I would say, you know, do something that you're passionate about and stay curious. So those would be my few words. Thank you.
Amazing. We love that. Thank you, Suki. We've got Amy. What would you like to leave us with?
Well, I feel everyone said something very deep and profound, so I might be a bit more lighthearted. Suki, your comment about your daughter really reminded me of myself because I did a physics degree and I was the only girl in my course by the end of it. So my advice is boys in STEM are a lot like spiders. They're often more scared of you than you are of them. Like if I had £1 for every time I tried to make a conversation with a boy in my course and they couldn't make eye contact, my goodness. So if you want to do something, do it because you love it. It doesn't matter who else. Don't worry about stupid things like, oh, I might be the only girl, because in some ways I quite enjoyed it because I felt kind of quite powerful, you know. I could walk into a room and everyone would stop talking and that was quite cool. So don't worry about things, the little things. If it's what you want to do it regardless.
That is an amazing way of looking at it. That might be my favourite quote from this evening. Thank you for that one, Amy. That was great. And Cara, I'm afraid you've got the difficult job of coming last. What would you like to leave us all with?
So definitely the least profound, but it was advice that I was given and I live by it every day of my life, whether it be at work or at home. Work hard at whatever you do in life, whether that's university, school, a job, a part-time job, your full-time job, whatever it is. Be proud of what you do in that hard work and what you're achieving, no matter how big or small you think it is. If you've worked hard on something, be proud of it. And then finally, always be kind. Be kind to your family, your friends, your colleagues, other students. We never know what we're all going through, but we're all in it together. Maybe at different stages in different boats, but we're all in the same ocean. So just remember and be kind.
That's so true. Thank you very much for wrapping that up, Cara. Because that brings us to the end of this panel. So a massive, massive thank you to our panelists. You've all been fantastic, and you've given some amazing answers and some amazing quotes from all of this. And so thank you very much for spending the evening with us. But don't worry, they are not going anywhere. They are joining us for some speed networking afterwards. So if you'd like to join us, please do head over to Remo now. We'll be over there in just a little bit as soon as I wrap this up. For those of you that are leaving us here, we're sorry to see you go. But thank you so much for joining us and for all of your great questions. It's been absolutely amazing having you. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning, so please do remember to do it. Please complete our feedback form. It's on your screens now. There you go. So just head to bit.ly/Roche feedback with a capital R and a capital F, and it will take you through a very quick form. And that is how you get your goodie bag as well. So it's worth doing. And I've seen the goodie bags and they look really, really cool. So please do make sure you're filling that in. And apart from that, I think we will all see you. Hopefully we will see most of you over on Remo in a second. But if you're leaving us here, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you very, very soon for another event. Thank you, everyone. Bye.